thought it started a little slow, and then he picked up at the end. And I think it shows the value of practice when everybody else has had 4 practices, and the importance of being out there. So I don't care who you are, what position you play. In order to get better and be consistent, you got to practice. So there was obviously a little rust early on, but I thought he finished strong.
So trainers and indoors not exactly the same thing?
No, not exactly.
I know this isn't Pee Wee football, but is there a line somewhere between the guys being competitive and enthusiastic and maybe forgetting that they're teammates, or how
you definitely want the guys out there competing to the best of their ability. You want guys being physical, but you want people to get out of practice healthy, and that's my number one concern every time we go out on the field is are we competing at our highest level? Are we getting better, but are we coming out healthy? And I think that is these guys got to understand that it doesn't matter what side of the ball you're on. If somebody goes down and somebody gets hurt because we're not being smart, it hurts everybody. It hurts the entire football team. So I appreciate the competitiveness, but at the end of the day, we are a team. It does get – football's an emotional game, and sometimes tempers do flare, but more than anything, I just want guys to compete and keep each other safe.
Did you address it with them in a meeting Friday?
Every day. Every day.
Did you double address it? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we see some stuff that we don't like on tape, we show it. And, and I also, it's got to come from our assistant coaches as well. And I think that was certainly emphasized.
You mentioned the emotions part of it. Rashawn was ticked off at one point after one of those scuffles. It seemed like he was yelling at you. Maybe I'm wrong, and I guess regardless of that, how do you handle, as a coach, the emotions of that kind of moment?
Yeah, I don't know. I usually black out as well. So, you just kind of handle it and try to talk to the guys. And it's interesting because, you got the defensive guys yelling at me because they think I'm an offensive guy. And then you got the offensive guys yelling at me because they think I'm favoring the defense. So it is what it is. It comes with the territory. But, we have fun with it.
That pop on Musgrave, what line is that on? Is that a clean play, fair play?
That's a very fine line right there, I would say, because it's kind of a double-edged sword. You don't want to discourage physicality. That's something that, especially I would say at that position, that we've been emphasizing. But at the same time, we always talk about no side shots. And then when you look at the tape closely, you see Luke put his foot in the ground, and so certainly you don't want Bull to let up, and then he gets run over. So it is such a fine line. I would say that, I have no problem with thudding up as long as they're bringing their arms. It gets tough when a guy lowers his shoulder. But, I mean, and everything happens so fast. So that's just one of those things that you kind of got to talk through. And I do think Luke in that situation has got to do a better job of just keeping his pad level and kind of bracing. Instead of bracing for that, like you got to deliver some sort of blow, so you don't have a collision like that. But certainly don't want that type of collision. I think we would all be sick if somebody got hurt from that.
Like one-on-ones, will you do more or less the same as you typically do in camp this year?
It just depends. I mean, the way we've kind of broken everything down is working in these 3-day blocks from a low, high, moderate standpoint. And typically what we've been doing, or what the plan is on the low days, is not to do them. The high and the moderate days we can do them. So today we will do them. It'll be a shorter duration than we will next week, whatever day. I'm in camp mode right now, so I don't even know what day. Was today Sunday? So Monday's off. So we'll get our longest day will be on Wednesday.
Does the 2-minute drill fall
on the same line as the one-on-ones in terms of, picking and choosing which days to do it?
Yeah, I think you just want to get a healthy dose of that. Certainly I think the install schedule lined up such that yesterday was the first install of 2 minutes, so we did a 2-minute end of half. Today we'll do a 2-minute end of game, but it's a similar situation.
Matt, almost a week into this, do you have a feel for how the new kickoff is going to kind of transpire? I mean, it's so unique and different.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's a moving target. I know there's been a lot of conversation, and it's great to have the officials here to help. I think they're learning it too. So, we have a lot of questions, and there's not a ton of answers yet. But I think, as we go through the course of training camp, as we get into the preseason games, certainly I think the practices, the joint practices will help clear a lot of things up. So hopefully by week 1 we'll have all the answers that we need.
I don't get to go to most of these, which I know you're disappointed about. But the other day you
So
said,
disappointed.
you said the other day that you've got everybody together. Does that mean everybody's in a hotel together, the whole team? Because there were past years where after COVID, like some guys were at home, and did you change that?
Yeah. So we did it last year as well. We had the whole team in there and doing the same thing now. So, and that will go. We let the vets out a little bit earlier than the younger players.
Is that important though, when you have a team that is comprised of as much youth as you guys have?
Yeah, I think it's an important part of it. Go through something miserable together, brings you closer.
I know it's apples to blood nuts comparison here when you're comparing
I've never heard that one before.
I know it's not even apples to oranges, but
Okay.
your safeties didn't make a lot of plays last year in regular season games, but your safeties made a lot of plays in training camp, so it's a bad comparison. But is this scheme setting them up to make more plays, or are those guys just playing a lot better?
Yeah, I don't know. We're 5 practices into this thing. I think once we transition to these preseason games, I think and certainly when we get in the regular season, that's going to give us a much better indication. I think there's elements to the scheme. I think when you look at whatever scheme you're running, there's always positives to it and potential negatives to it. And that's just the way it is. To me, it's about how do we put our players in the best possible situations and making sure that we have enough versatility within the scheme to keep teams off balance, and then trying to disguise and make as much stuff look like one thing and then it be something different. I think that there's a lot to that. I think, when you look at the more you have to, or the more you're able to create post-snap decisions by the quarterback, I think typically the better your scheme could potentially be dependent upon your players. Now, I think we're fortunate that we have some pretty good players. Certainly, we've felt the pass rush is real, which in turn allows everybody else to play a little bit tighter, a little bit more flat-footed, a little bit more aggressive when you have situations like that. So it all goes hand in hand. I don't know if I really answered your question, but that's kind of how I see our defense right now.
So how have you thought of, again, it's easy for us to see the splash plays, but what have you thought of Williams and Bullard? Kind of their totality?
Yeah, I'm really excited about both those guys. It all starts certainly they have a skill set, but the mental ability of both these guys to be able to retain what they learned throughout the course of OTAs, come back and just continue to build on that day by day, I think it's been super impressive. Just they're versatile enough we can interchange the safeties so you can't get a beat on exactly who's going to be where. I think that's an important part of it. And it's such a competitive situation in terms of just we've got a few guys that are, challenging each other right now to roll opposite of X.
I know it's only 5 practices in and only 1 padded practice, but what have you been able to find out about the offensive line with Elton having a day off, Josh being gone, Zach not practicing? You've had Morgan at right guard, you've moved around Ryan.
At some point you'd like to get some continuity amongst the starting 5, but I don't want to read too much into it. We've had one padded practice. I think it'll sort itself out the longer we get into this thing. Certainly we're shuffling a lot of guys around. There's a lot of different guys in and out of the lineup. I think there's a lot of good that comes of that, just getting guys in different positions to help cross-train them, and if in case something bad happens and you need to, rotate guys around or whatever it may be. But we still got a lot of ball before we have to make any decisions.
Two more, please. Do you think there's a chance Morgan is just better suited for guard? I mean, I feel like he's worked there almost the whole time.
Yeah, he's been predominantly inside. Certainly in OTAs, we put him a decent amount of tackle. But I think he's starting to feel more and more comfortable inside. But I think he's talented enough, if need be, that if we have to kick him outside, we can do that.
Williams mentioned that pre-snap Xavier McKinney's deciding who goes down and who stays back. Is that autonomy common at that, or is that?
I love that Evan's giving away our secrets. X has, he's the vet in the room, and certainly put a lot of resources into him and want to put him, in position to make plays because he's shown that ability. And we got a lot of confidence in him. But I think it just, in order to be able to do that, the other guys got to be in tune with every job responsibility that's required of whether you're a down safety or a post safety, whether you're the field safety playing quarters or you're the boundary safety playing a half field. So there's, for those guys to be able to handle that, I think it just kind of speaks to where they're at as well.
Are there conversations with him about that second safety spot of what he's seen and how who you end up starting at that position next to him?
No, not yet. Maybe eventually. Thank you, guys. All right, guys. Have a good one.